Welcome back to DMV Sports Zone.
Chased down by Beal in the corner for three, gets fouled and hits.
Welcome to DC.
Walker tied him out.
You know where you're at, the USA cap. You're taking it slightly, I'm taking it slightly. Now how you gon' act on you gon' be right back. Well, we gon' be right here, we gon' be right here. We ain't going nowhere. Welcome to DC.
What's good, everyone? Super Nazi with another video for the channel. Welcome back to DMV Sports Zone, and welcome to the second part of my three-part series where I dive into what I think are the top three options for the Washington Commanders at pick number 11 in this month's NFL Draft. It's going to get underway on April 28th, just a couple weeks away now, and yeah, it's a very exciting time when it comes to the NFL Draft, and I'll be diving into my thoughts on the second best prospect, in my opinion, for the Washington Commanders. Before getting into that second guy, though, I do want to continue sending out my prayers, our prayers in DMV Sports Zone, and condolences to the Dwayne Haskins family. The tragedy that happened on Saturday was unfathomable. It was really shocking to a lot of people, including myself, and continued prayers, man. Dwayne Haskins, his time in DC was relatively short, but he was a man at 24 years old. 24 years old, just a couple of years older than me, who passed away. And continued prayers to the family, man. I'm so sorry for what they're dealing with right now. I know it's hard to transition to this topic of the NFL Draft, but I guess I'll try the best way I can. And again, the second guy that I will be discussing today is, as you guys saw by the thumbnail, Jameson Williams. First off, whenever I'm mentioning an Alabama guy, I gotta say Roll Tide, right? Roll Tide. That is my, outside the DMV sports teams, that is my preferred college football team in the nation. But putting even that bias aside when it comes to Alabama Crimson Tide, I want to speak on how great of a prospect Jameson Williams is. I think he is when healthy, and a lot of people out there think he is the #1 overall receiver prospect. He's a top 10 pick when healthy. But the injury that he sustained in the national championship game, getting a torn ACL, and it was in January, right, is throwing a wrench in a lot of things, especially his draft stock, right, in terms of him being that potential top 10, top 15 pick. And I'll get to that a little bit later, but Jameson Williams, the prospect. So first off, he's from St. Louis, Missouri, and he just turned 21 years old, so he's very, very young. 6'2", 189 pounds prospect who was originally at Ohio State, but then transferred to Alabama to play for them in the 2021 season. And I would say that decision was a good one, especially with Ohio State already having Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson and James, the guy that's going to come out of the class next year, who is probably going to be the best receiver next year in the entire nation in terms of NFL draft prospects. And in 2021, he had 15 starts, 79 catches, nearly 1,600 receiving yards, which I believe was 5th in the country. And he also had 15 receiving touchdowns, which was 3rd in the country. So he put up the stats. He was a great receiver for the Alabama Crimson Tide and averaged nearly 20 yards per catch. So very much a yards after catch type of guy, very much a speedster as well, even though he won't be running obviously in the NFL Combine or the Pro Day because of his injury. Probably would have ran in the 4.3s, maybe even higher. He's a true speedster. He is the guy that a lot of people compare to a Tyreek Hill in this draft, or any one of the fast receivers in this league right now that you can name. He is that good. A great route runner as well. Last year, he won all the awards you can think of in the SEC, including the co-SEC Special Teams Player of the Year, after having 352 kick return yards and 2 kick return touchdowns as well. So he's a great special teams guy and would give you, that threat at the receiver position, but also at special teams if we were so to choose him in the draft. And was also a finalist for the Blitnikoff Award, which goes to the best collegiate receiver in the nation. He was a finalist for that award, ultimately did not receive it, but just shows you how great of a season he had in his lone year at Alabama, right? You got to consider the fact that he went to an entirely new offensive system, entirely new scheme, and produce in his first season here at Bama. And in the national championship game, a lot of people forget this. He had 4 catches for 65 yards. He was already torching the Georgia secondary, right? This elite Georgia defense that everyone loved to talk about and ultimately carry them to the national championship win, right? He torched them for 4 catches for 65 yards before ultimately going down with that torn ACL. And I know a lot of Georgia fans out there, some of which are my friends, whether it be Rico from Street Scores or my friend Frank, former work supervisor. They both tell me that if Jameson Williams stayed in that game, the odds would have been pretty slim that Georgia would have pulled that out because of the impact that he brought to that game and brought to the entire Alabama Crimson Tide offense. So, yeah, he had a great season last year, including a great short stint in that national championship game. Again, elite route runner, elite speed, gives you that Tyreek Hill type of speed, but obviously no one's a Tyreek Hill, right? Tyreek Hill is really in a class of his own, if you were to say, and would mesh well with Carson Wentz's play style, if I'm going to be honest, right? He is a deep threat. Jameson Williams is a deep threat. He's a great route runner. Carson Wentz loves to push the ball down the field. Would definitely mesh well with Carson Wentz's traits. And he has great burst, great hands as well. Oftentimes when it comes to these speed guys, these guys that run super fast, they're not necessarily the greatest when it comes to catching the ball, which is the number one rule for a wide receiver, right? Like that's what you have to do at the position. And he's great at that as well, has great agility. And he also, for what it's worth, broke the high school Missouri hurdler record, which was previously taken by Ezekiel Elliott, funny enough, and it was in the 300-meter hurdles, to be specific. So he's a great hurdler as well, right? Great route runner, great speed. The one thing that he's missing right now, and funny enough, Terry was also missing coming into the NFL, is his contested catch ability. But I think that will get better with time. He is 6'2", right? So he isn't the shortest of receivers, and I think with this offense and this system, we'll be able to sort of or develop Jameson Williams as an elite receiver, and I think contested catch ability will come again with time. And I said this before, and I'll say it again. He was clearly the wide receiver 1 when healthy. He's not super healthy right now. Obviously, he tore an ACL in January's national championship game. But what a lot of people don't realize, I've said this in previous streams, but if you haven't watched, the timetable for his injury after January was supposed to be 5 to 7 months, right? It was probably a partially torn ACL, so it probably wasn't one of those injuries that would have lasted 9, 10, 11, 12 months in terms of comeback time. 5 to 7 month timetable, meaning that he probably could be ready by training camp, if not the preseason. And I know he'd probably miss rookie mini camp. He'd probably miss all the other training activities in the offseason that an NFL team has before training camp. But he should be good to go come training camp, if not the preseason. And in my opinion, with the fact that he's the wide receiver 1 in this class when healthy, I think that's a risk worth taking. Especially, this is the most ideal situation. If you could trade back to potentially getting the Baltimore Ravens 14th overall pick, or potentially getting the New Orleans Saints pick a little bit later. If we could trade back, that would be the ideal situation, because we would be getting, again, the wide receiver 1 in this class, and we would also be getting him at a very high value. But with reports being that Jameson Williams is ahead of the 5 to 7 month timetable and already receiving a lot of visits for a lot of teams, I don't know if a trade back is actually possible. I know a lot of fans are talking about that trade back possibility, but honestly, if the reports are that his health is getting better and better with each passing day as we move closer to the NFL draft, I think we're probably going to have to draft him at 11 overall. In my opinion, I don't know about you guys out there, I'm fine with that. I really am, man. Imagine Terry McLaurin with Jameson Williams, bro. Just imagine. I know it's a little redundant in terms of their abilities, right? In terms of the speed, the route running, and all that. But honestly, I would like to have another Terry McLaurin on this team. Hopefully, we resign the original Terry McLaurin, which is another story for another day. But I do think we'll ultimately do it, maybe around July or August. But yeah, I would take Jameson Williams. He's my number 2 option for us. mean, obviously he's a receiver. We need a receiver. That's probably our top need. And he's a great one at that. Although he didn't have that great of a production at Ohio State, once he came to Alabama, once he was the featured part of the offense, which he likely will be here in DC, he really showed his true ability, his great ability that he has. So, again, Jameson Williams is my number 2 option for the Washington Commanders. I think it would be a great fit for Carson Wentz, for this offense, for this entire team, for this entire organization. And, yeah, that's it for my thoughts on Jameson Williams and his fit here in DC. He, again, is my second option. I'll get into my first option on another video that will be coming out relatively shortly. So, with that being said, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the DMV Sports Zone channel, where we like to post fire content like this as much as possible. Also, go follow our Twitter page at DMV Sports Zone, Instagram page, all lowercase DMV Sports Zone, and our TikTok at DMV Sports Zone as well. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and see you on the next one. Peace.